here it is the problem of the projectile motion, and when you deal with the projectile motion, first draw the projectile and then put the formula of the projectile before you start solving the problem. So here the ball is thrown like this, and it will follow a projectile path and it will reach the ground. So if this is the angle theta making that particular initial velocity of that ball u with x-axis, then we know ux equal to u cos theta and uy equal to u sin theta. So in projectile, I'm just telling you how to deal with this problem, and then we'll come to that real solution of that problem. See, another thing you need to remember, x component of acceleration will be 0 and y component of the acceleration will be minus g. Now we need to basically find out in this problem the total time of flight, because the problem is telling at certain height, let's say at h1, at height h1, so this is h1 and it takes the time t1. So h1 it takes the time t1, again h2 it takes the time t2, and this is, if we consider this is h2 and this time will be t2, so this is given in that problem. So now the ball is caught at the same height, means where at what height it was thrown from, and it is caught at that same height. So here we are taking mainly the total time of flight. So first we need to get the formula of the total time of flight. If you cannot remember, you can quickly derive that. So I'm just showing you how to get the total time of flight duration at total time of flight. So let's say this ball is thrown from point 0 here, origin, and it comes here, then at this point that y will be 0. So if we put it is 0 and y component of velocity is ui, and if we take the total time of flight, so this is t is the total time of flight minus half g t square, and the total time of flight capital T, it comes to 2 ui by g, and if we put the value of ui, then it comes 2u sin theta by g. So we will use this total time of flight to get the solution. Okay, now at h1 it takes t1, at h2 it takes t2. So from this same formula, if from this formula, if we put, so h1 at total time of flight it is getting 0, but at h1 it will take ui t1 minus half g t1 square. Same way, if we put the value of ui, it is u sin theta t1 minus half g t1 square. So u sin theta will be h1 by t1 plus half g t1. So this is the value of u sin theta. Same way, if we put h2 equals to ui t2 minus half g t2 square, and if we put that value of ui equal to u sin theta, so you will get u sin theta equal to, same way you will get h2 by t2 plus half g t2. So like this we will get the value of sin theta. Putting the value of h2 and t2 will get. Now from these two equations, if we equate these two equations, see, our main idea is to find the value of u sin theta and find the value of g, so that we get the total time of flight, and that total time of flight should be coming in terms of h1 t1 h2 t2 in this form, and then we'll match with that answer. Now equating these two, we will get h1 by t1 plus half g t1 half g t1 equal to h2 by t2 plus half g t2. So we are just equating this equation and this equation. Equating these two equations, we get this. Okay, so from here we will get let us take the half g out, t2 minus t1, t2 minus t1, it is coming h1 by t1 minus h2 by t2, t2 minus t1, it is coming like this. Then you put g by 2 into t2 minus t1, it is coming t1 t2, then h1 t2 minus h2 t1. Therefore it is coming g by 2 equal to, it is coming h1 t2 minus h2 t1, and if it goes here, it will come, say, okay, let me put another line, t1 t2 into t2 minus t1, and it is coming h1 t2 minus h2 t1 divided by t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2. So this is g by 2. This is g by 2. Remember, we have say 2 by g by 2, so that's what we are putting this equation like this. So this is the value of g by 2. Now we will put this value into other equation to get the value of u sine theta. So let's go to the next page and do that. And remember, this value of g by 2 is required over here, because here g by 2 is given, and we'll put that value and get that value of u sine theta. So u sine theta equal to h1 by t1 plus half g t1. So u sine theta equal to h1 by t1 plus t1 into, we need to put the value of g. So let us check that value of g once again. So here it is coming h1 t2 minus h2 t1, h1 t2 minus h2 t1, h1 t2 minus h2 t1 divided by, it is coming t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2, t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2. So this is the value of g by 2. We are just deriving that. Now that simple calculation we need to do here. Put a big line, t1 into t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2, and here you have to multiply this one. So h1 t1 t2 square minus h1 t1 square t2. Here if you multiply this, it is coming plus, let's put h1 at the beginning, h1, then t1 square t2 minus, see this t1 is also getting multiplied, minus h2 t1 cube. Okay, and here you see something is getting nullified, h1 t1 square t2. So this and this getting nullified, and we will get u sine theta equal to, say, h1 t1 t2 square minus h2 t1 cube, t1 t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2. So this is u sine theta, u sine theta. So u sine theta is coming, you take t1 out here, then h1 t2 square minus h2 t1 square, and this t1 is here, t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2. So this will go out. So this is the value of u sine theta. Now total time of light, we know total time of light, that capital T is 2u sine theta by g. Put the value of u sine theta here, h1 t2 square minus h2 t1 square by t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2 into, so this was the value of g by 2, but here we have to put the value of 2 by g. So just do the reverse of this. So t1 t2 square minus t1 square t2, and here you put h1 t2 minus h2 t1. So this is g by 2, and here we have to use 2 by g. So this value you have to put it here, and then you get so this going out, then we'll get h1 t2 square minus h2 t1 square by h1 t2 minus h2 t1. So this is the total time of light, and match with the answer. So this is the answer to the solution.